Kate, every time I look at the All-Star game rosters, I think to myself, there are so many good players. And I understand that there's a lot of players that always feel like they get snubbed, but like everybody can't be a starter. Like there are only so many slots to fill and so many places on the All-Star team. Like I'm looking at the starting five. My goodness. So for the West, it's Steph Curry, SGA, LeBron, KD, and Nikola Jokic. So that means Anthony Edwards is not starting. But like, come on, who else is he going to replace? On the Eastern Conference side, we have Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Karl Anthony Towns, and Giannis. So it's just, I think it boils down to there's just not that many spots. When there are only 5 positions to fill, there are going to be a lot of good players left off. And so I feel like people complain, but it's just so hard to be an all-star, let alone a starter.
I think what we're seeing too is a lot of new young players coming into the league and making a name for themselves, because you look at some of the names, even like in the Western Conference, the reserves, Alfred Şengün from the Rockets.
Yeah.
He's not a massive name when you're saying, okay, Devin Booker didn't make it, Kyrie Irving didn't make it, they got snubbed. Well, no, Alfred Şengün's just having a phenomenal season and he deserves it, where some of these other players almost, I don't want to say they expect it, because both Booker and Kyrie have had great seasons. Kyrie's had a lot of injuries that he's been out for. So you have these younger guys stepping up. Jalen Williams from the Thunder. I mean, he's a reserve as well. Jaren Jackson Jr., his second All-Star, he's been phenomenal. So you just have a lot more, you have some younger players that are up and coming and that are going to, if you're not careful, if you're a veteran in this league that maybe deserves to be an All-Star based on your previous, your history in the league, that's not going to get it done. It's a year-to-year thing in terms of making the All-Star game, and these young guys are on your heels and are coming up. But yeah, in terms of starters, there's just not enough starting spots, right? I mean, you could make an argument Anthony Edwards, yes, should be a starter, but are you replacing SGA? Absolutely not. He's the front runner for MVP. Kevin Durant? No. I mean, if anyone you replace, I think you replace LeBron, but in his 23rd season, for like, you're not replacing LeBron James as a starter. I'm sorry. He is one of those players that has earned that starting spot based on his history in the league versus his numbers right now. But again,
well, he's not having a bad season. Like LeBron is still putting up
9 assists. Yeah, I guess. Okay, maybe the other one would be Steph Curry, but do you replace Curry? Like, I don't know. It's tough. I don't think you do. So some of these older veteran players that are upset that they're not in the league or in the All-Star game, like, tough go. You got some young guys that are on your heels and are up and coming.
It feels almost like the Olympics, because remember, everybody was up in arms for who was playing and who was on the court in the Olympics, but Team USA was just so stacked. So it wasn't like, hey, this guy is terrible. It's just, look at the roster. Who am I going to be replacing out there? So it's a good problem to have when you have that many recognizable superstars that are just so good. But if you bet on basketball, we have an offer for you over at BetMGM that you won't find anywhere else. Each Friday throughout the season, pick the player you think will score the first basket in the game. If it's not your player, but he scores the second field goal of the game, you get your stake back in cash. You only get that here with the king of sportsbooks, born in Vegas at BetMGM. Here's how it works. You place a first field goal bet. If your player scores the first field goal of the game, you win, obviously. But if your player scores the second field of the game, but not the first, you still get your stake back in cash, only at BetMGM. So we've been talking about complaining, and some people are complaining that they're not on the All-Star list. But Victor Wembanyama is complaining for a different reason. Apparently, he thinks he's not getting the calls.
Frustration, it's a bunch of things.
Do you think you get a fair whistle most nights in terms of people being physical with you?
No.
What do you do about that? Do you be more vocal with the refs, or is it, as Mitch suggested, maybe it's time to take matters in your own hands, which almost happened tonight?
It's a hard thing, to fight because it feels unfair sometimes, but of course we talk about it with the staff, and there is some stuff I have to do to help myself. First of all, being strong and not bailing out shots, but also also there is some work to do, like talking to the refs, of course, explaining myself, but it's for me, it doesn't feel like it's something I should influence. It's like I'm a basketball player. I'm here to play, and this is this is why it's frustrating. It's not my job to do politics.
I think he's right. Like, you shouldn't have to plead your case to a referee. Like, the referee should be making the call no matter what the case is, from the person who is getting the foul or the person who the foul is being called on. But it's one of those things in the NBA that's been, I don't want to say it's like an under the table thing, but it feels like a thing that is like an unwritten rule that the superstars usually do get the calls. Wemby's not really in that category just yet. Also, I feel like it doesn't help that he's like 7'10" or however tall he is. But he is somebody who is not super physical just yet, just simply because of his structure and the way that he's built. He's very tall. He's very lanky. So maybe if he adds some weight, some of these physical calls won't affect him as much. But Kate, what do you think about his frustration here? This was Wednesday after the Clippers game.
Yeah, and his frustration came from Zubac on the Clippers just running down the court and just barreling into Wemby and knocking him over. Wemby went flying. So, that's justified. And there wasn't a foul called on that. I think there probably should have been. So I understand those things. He's still young in the league, right? This is his second year. And to your point, Chelsa, he is a string bean. The guy needs to put on some weight. Remember when Giannis came into the league, how skinny Giannis was and scrawny? He looks nothing like he does right now. Wemby will put on some muscle, he'll put on a couple more pounds, and he'll beef up, and then no one is going to want to challenge him because he is going to just, touch someone and knock him over. But he just has to grow a little bit. He has to get stronger. He has to develop more of a superstardom in this league before he's going to get a lot of those calls that other stars might get, which is maybe not right. But I just hope that he doesn't, this early in his career, start complaining to the refs, because how annoying is it? Every time Luka gets touched, he's screaming, talking to the refs. Every time LeBron gets touched, he's screaming and talking. It's just obnoxious as a basketball fan, as a viewer, to see the superstars just complaining all game. And I do understand it to an extent, but Wemby's this is only his second year in the league. He is a superstar. He is the young face of the league, but he still has to pay his dues a little bit. And you think to the WNBA and Caitlin Clark coming into the league last year, she was getting run over by opponents because she was not physical enough. She was not strong enough. And she's put on a ton of muscle and a ton of weight in terms of just being able to be more physical. And she's going to have a better season this year. So it just growth for Wemby. I totally see his frustration. I get it, but I really hope he doesn't start complaining too much, at least this early in his career.